Jollibee, 'di ba? So, yung sa Jollibee, what they did was to start with the fast food industry, and then they still wait lang. They still continued, right, acquiring yung mga fast food businesses that are similar to them. So yung sa Jollibee, they have Chowking, Greenwich, Pizza, Red Ribbon, the CBTL, which is a coffee shop chain, Yoshinoya Philippines, which is a Japanese restaurant, and then there are still some businesses that they have acquired that still hasn't entered the Philippine market yet, like yung ano nga yun, yung hindi ko makita na yung we have the Panda Express, right? 50% ownership. So hindi pa siya nakapasok ng Pilipinas, I think, but at the same time, they own 50% of Panda Express. So if this is enters the market, then obviously they have uh, close to majority stake. But it's a US company, yung Panda Express natin. Same with Burger King, right? And they have the Philippine franchise for Burger King as well. And so we have those kinds of strategies. And yung lima nating na conglomerates na i-discuss ngayon is yung Ayala, we have the DMCI, you have the San Miguel Corporation, we have the SM Group, as well as the First Pacific Group. So sa ano na to, sa apat na to or sa lima na to, yung Ayala, yung medyo Spanish descent, right? Spanish mestizo descent. But the others, most of them have some sort of Chinese blood. Right? Ayun. So yung Ayala Group, guys, this is a bit surprising, but they started as a liquor production company. And then, sila nagproduce ng Ginebra gin dati. They produced Ginebra gin for another firm. Hindi pa yun nakuha ng San Miguel. And then what happened is that San Miguel acquired that firm. Basically yung Ayala Group, they were an outsourcing company in the sense na hinahire sila ng producer or ng nagma-manufacture ng Ginebra na gin para gawin sa kanila yung gin na iyon, 'di ba? Ang weird. Pero ayun, tapos binili ng San Miguel yung Ginebra sa La Tondeniera distillery na iyon. Kaya ngayon they have already acquired the rights to produce Ginebra, right? And that's Ginebra San Miguel, 'di ba? Pero ayun, that was a really cool history. And this was not the first or this was not the last time wherein Ayala as well as San Miguel engaged in transactions with regards to the brands. San Miguel bought another brand from Ayala. What was this brand that San Miguel bought? Does anybody have an idea kung ano yung brand na binili ng San Miguel? It's also another type of food brand. Okay, so actually yung Pure Foods, guys, before, they belong to Ayala. And then San Miguel bought Pure Foods, kaya ngayon San Miguel Pure Foods na. But hindi lang yun nagtatapos. So Ayala also bought they also acquired a lot of other assets that San Miguel wanted to enter in. So for example, later makikita natin San Miguel wanted to enter the telecom market, and then yung inawa ng Ayala tsaka ng First Pacific Group, which is the owner of Smart, they bought 50% each of the assets of that telecommunication companies to prevent San Miguel Corporation from entering the telecom market, and to also preserve the duopoly that Ayala and First Pacific Group of Smart have. They bought 50% each na stake or ng assets ng mag-enter sana na market sa telco market ng San Miguel. So ayun, those are certain strategies that really big businesses use so that you can prevent competition from entering the market. And so in the 20th century, Ayala Group entered into property rentals and leasing and subdivision development and sales, as well as the insurance business. So they were one of the groups that started developing Makati, right? And yun, doon nag-start yung kanilang mga pagde-develop ng property. Hanggang ngayon, meron pa rin silang mga subdivisions. They have malls, right? In Cebu, in Manila, and so on. The Ayala malls usually considered to be really upscale malls. And you also have the insurance business. In the 1970s to 1980s, they started going into the telecom business. They bought out Globe. and at the same time they bought out a microelectronics industry. And then makikita natin yung push nila during this time, because this was an industrialization age as well. They started looking into manufacturing, specifically yung light manufacturing as well as yung heavy manufacturing. So heavy manufacturing means that they're creating big machinery, while light manufacturing means that you're usually creating consumer goods lang that are a bit smaller, right? So for example, cakes would be light manufacturing, while producing cars would be an example of heavy manufacturing. So dun sila nag-enter. They started collaborating with foreign firms such as Isuzu, Volkswagen, as well as Honda, and they are the local producers, right, of these things, or they created parts for these companies. Aside from that, aside from the light and heavy manufacturing, they also started putting businesses into food manufacturing as well as agriculture. You have financial services. They started acquiring the bank. Or they have a bank, the Bank of the Philippine Islands. You also have IT and electronics as well as real estates and eventually hotels. And they also started entering yung water, right, with Manila Water Company. And then you also have solar energy with the Michigan Power Company. So they have footholds in many different industries. And that's why the Ayalas are considered to be one of the premier examples of conglomerate diversification. Because eto nga, yung branding ng Ayala Group, they brand themselves as a company which is a bit more benevolent, right? Yung kanilang branding, parang maganda yung corporate responsibility nila, and so on. And ayun, marami silang mga foundations, and then marami din silang mga charity groups, and then they also have their own museums, right, for education purposes. Ayan, so you have the Ayala Museum, and they have actually the best reputation, or one of the best reputations with regards to the big businesses, 'di ba, yung Ayala. Ayan. You also have the DM Consunji Group. So yung DM Consunji Group is yung pangalan niya nanggaling kay yung sa kanilang CEO and then the founder, David Mendoza Consunji. And they started by being an outsourced group. Ina-outsource sila ng Ayala, ng First Pacific Group ni Manny Villar, na gumawa ng mga infrastructure para sa kanila. So sa development na area. So this is a group that has a lot of experience in engineering, tsaka construction and infrastructure work. And hindi lang yon, pero they were also one of the groups that were tapped during the Marcos regime. So yung paggawa ng mga proyekto, mga daan, sila yung tinatap. Hanggang ngayon, they are also still the company which is being tapped to create more roads and expressways. Kasi they have been in the construction business for a very long time already, right? And then marami sila, syempre, ang ganda ng resume nila kasi tinatap sila ng gobyerno, they're tapped by other big groups also like Ayala, like First Pacific Group, and so on. And so dun sila nag-start, diba? Involved in the construction of both public as well as private buildings and infrastructure contracted by both the government and clients such as Ayala Group as well as SM Group. So yun talaga yung nila, yung kanilang thrust nung una. And then obviously because they're a big company, they started looking into other industries that could generate income for them. Right? Kasi meron na silang excess na supply ng pera. So with regards to the industries that they went into, they started going into mining. So sila yung nag-acquire ng Semirara Coal Company. Sino na dito yung nakapunta ng Semirara Island? Who has been to Semirara Island before? May nakapunta na ba ng Semirara? Or alam kung nasan yung Semirara, malapit? It's just near us. In the sense na Okay, so Semirara is in Antique. Malapit siya sa Antique talaga siya. It's an island that you have to travel to after. And so they started mining nickel, chromite, and iron under the DMCI Mining Corporation. And then they also acquired small na mga power companies or corporations under the National Power Corporation, usually sa Mindanao area. They also invested in real estate under the DMCI homes, as well as along with the MVP group, the Manny Pangilinan group, yung First Pacific group. they also invested in the Maynilad water sector. So sila yung direct competitor ng Ayalas. Actually, hindi sila direct competitor kasi may specific na parts, right? So I think the Ayalas are in charge of the eastern part of Manila to deliver water, while the DM Consuni group and then you have the First Pacific group are in charge of the western part. And so aside from that, you also have First Pacific group. So eto si MVP, Manny V. Pangilinan. And actually guys, yung First Pacific Group na ito, this is not a Philippine-based company. This company is based on Hong Kong, and makikita natin that the industries na pinapasok nila reflect that as well. So ang dami nilang industry sa Pilipinas, pero hindi lang limitado yung kanilang sakop sa Pilipinas. They have also started food manufacturing in Indonesia with Indofood. Ayan. And aside from that, they also have a lot of industries that they dabble in the Philippines. You have Meralco with the electric industry. You have Smart, right, with the telecom, PLDT as well, telecom, and then you also have mga hospital businesses with Makati Medical Center as well as Cardinal Santos Hospital. And at the same time, you also have the largest mining company in the Philippines, which is Philex Mining. So, ayun. And Manny B. Pangilinan is one of the biggest like investors in mining. And that's why he creates articles. Gumagawa siya ng mga articles, guys, to say that mining in the Philippines should be promoted. And there are points with regards to that. He says that you just need to make sure that the laws are implemented well because the laws are there. And at the same time, you have to make sure that you do responsible mining. But yun nangyari is kasi one of the biggest investors in Ateneo is MVP. He has his own building there, and he was part of the board. But then the school disagreed with this advocacy. They don't believe in the mining that MVP's Felix Mining Company wants to promote. So what they did was they had a falling out, nagkaroon sila ng away, and then MVP resigned from the board. Ayan. So may mga ganong klaseng away sa kanila with regards to the conflict regards to business interests. Pero he has already donated a building to the school. And you also have San Miguel Corporation. So yung San Miguel, they started or they were originally involved in manufacturing liquor products. Ayan. Syempre, 'di ba? They started or they acquired yung Ginebra San Miguel and the San Miguel series. Ngayon, marami silang models. They have diversified from the original na bottle na brown. They started going into San Miglite, San Miguel Dry, San Miguel Premium, 'di ba? Iba't ibang klase ng mga beers na 'yon. And hindi lang 'yan, they also acquired or they also have Red Horse right now, 'di ba? In 2001, they also acquired Pure Foods. As Ayala left the food manufacturing industry and then gave it the Pure Foods, or actually sold the Pure Foods to San Miguel Corporation. They also acquired Energy Development Corporation, and at the same time, they also went into the banking sector with shares in the Bank of Commerce. Again, all of these companies, maliban sa DMCI Corporation or holdings, have banks. And they started diversifying into the fuel industries, having stakes in Petron Corporation, and they also have electricity with Meralco. And at the same time, they started the acquisition of PAL as well as oil companies. And then, syempre, yung PPP nila, public-private partnership, like Katiklan, diba? Katiklan Airport, which is a cooperation or collaboration between San Miguel and the Philippine government. And then you also have SM Investments Corporation. So alam natin yung story about this one. They started as a shoe retailer and a manufacturer, and then they branch out into many malls. Okay? And then after that, aside from developing yung malls business nila, they started going into property development. So yung mga subdivisions nila, mga residential condominiums na usually malapit sa SM din, that is integrated with malls. So malapit yung condos nila with the malls themselves. Right? Kasi nga, if there is a mall in an area that's already prime real estate, 'di ba? Ayun. So, 'di ba, if usually nagpapatayo lang naman yung mall kung saan yung area na medyo maraming tao. And it's always a good idea to put a residential condominium there, right, or any residential area, because there's a lot of demand for housing in those specific cities. They also started providing financial services by acquiring China Banking Corporation as well as Banco de Oro, with BDO becoming the biggest or the largest bank in the country in terms of assets. So SM Investments Corporation is highly successful, and you can see how successful they are by looking at the family tree. And nakikita natin, 'di ba? You have Henry Sai, who is already dead, but then makikita natin the children, all six of them have their own different industries that they go to. So si Teresita Sai, she's in charge of the banking part of SM, while the other ones are in charge of the other businesses of SM. Meron silang specific na mga areas that they go into. And right now, they're training the third generation in the different sectors, such as real estate, banking, and retail. You also have schools. So SM Investment Corporation started investing and acquiring certain schools. So for example, the National University is a SAI-owned school. You also have the Asia Pacific Computer Technology Center, which is also a SAI-earned school. And then you also have a mining investment under Atlas Consolidated Mining Inc. So makikita natin, most of these businesses really go into mining kasi kinakailangan nila to support the their manufacturing part of the business. And at the same time, they go into banking to support also the financing part of their business. And then you also have, ayan, I think this is the end of the slide. So yun yung apat or lima pala na grupo natin. Girl is trying. Ayan, so that's it. For now, what we'll do is we're gonna have the game first, and then after that, we're gonna have a discussion about South Korea. Sige, so enter the code. The code is 841078. I can also share the link in the ayan, sige, chat box. Oh God! Uy, sino to? Ayan. Okay, guys, pakipasok na or papasok na sa quizzes. Sige. Let's enter the quizzes now. Andito na ba yung yung mga ko? Yan. Andito si Dave. Okay, si Christine. How about Jeff? She's here. Okay, sige. Si Shine. Okay, andito sila apat. Sila muna yung mag-explain ha, mamaya. Okay, sige. Everyone, pasok na sa Ayun. Okay, so there are 2 people already here. We have around 18 people here. So, dapat more than 10 to ha yung papasok. For those who have slow internet, just watch this game on your LARP na window. Okay, how about the rest? Have 8 people. Okay. Sige, 1 minute more before we start. Okay. Sige, good. Ayan, for the rest, just enter the game. Okay, let's start. Okay, which of the following public-private partnership schemes is the Katiklan Airport built on? Build, operate, transfer, build and transfer, rehabilitate and transfer, build, own, and operate. Okay. Four people, why are you not answering? Yung apat na yon. Okay, sige. So the correct answer is build, operate, and transfer. Next question. Pure Foods is now a subsidiary company of San Miguel Corporation. However, it was previously owned by which group? DMCI, First Pacific Group, Ayala Group, or SM Investments? Okay, thank you, Charles, for answering. Hindi siya makapasok. Oh my God, go to Aryan. Oh, go to Aryan. Okay, the correct answer is Ayala Group. Okay, good. Next question. What type of diversification is shown in each square of the Unilever company investment portfolio? Again, what type of diversification is shown in each square of the Unilever company investment portfolio? So these are grouped. Oh my God. Okay. Okay, correct answer is concentric diversification. Similar products, similar industries. Conglomerate is kapag sabi ko each square. Ayan, so these are grouped similarly. You have the ice cream group, you have the seasoning group, you have the tea group. Mostly food industries. Dove Axe, ayan. Next question. Si Adrian hindi din makapasok. Which of the following is not true about Philippine conglomerates? Okay. For those who are watching sa may lark lang, ito yung choices. Most of them are in the service sector. Most of them have a history of taking over previously government-controlled industries. Ownership and management is passed on to family members, or they contribute more to Philippine GDP than Korean chaebols due to South Korea's GDP. 5, 4. Okay, so the correct answer is last one. The Philippine conglomerates do not contribute more to the GDP of the Philippines compared to the South Korea's chaebols. Next. Okay, which among the following is owned by the First Pacific Group under Mani Pangilinan? So you have the pictures, you have Pure Foods, Smart, Globe, Semirara Mining, and Power Corporation. Three people who are not answering. Correct answer is Smart. Okay, Smart. Yung Semirara is DMCI. Next. Which among the following is owned by DMCI Holdings under David Mendoza Consunji? Sorry. Which among the following is owned by DMCI Holdings under David Mendoza Consunji? Sinabi na ni teacher yung answer kanina. Globe. Pure Foods. Correct answer is should be Semirara. Okay. Go Adrian and Charles. Among the ways to fund the large-scale capital-intensive projects, which one is used most commonly to fund and operate public infrastructure development in the recent years, especially 2000s to 2010s. Among the ways to fund the large-scale capital-intensive projects, which one is used or most commonly used to fund and operate public infrastructure development in the recent years? Okay, correct answer is PPP, public-private partnerships. Okay, good. 7 people got the correct answer. Yung 4 na hindi sumasagot. Sayang. Transair Development Holding Corporation, which expanded and operates the Caticlan Airport, is a subsidiary of which conglomerate? Again, Transair Development Holding Corporation, which expanded and operates the Caticlan Airport, is a subsidiary company of which conglomerate? San Miguel, Ayala, SM Investments, DMCI Corporation. Adrian and Charles, hindi na kayo nag-answer, napagod na sila. Okay, correct answer is San Miguel Corporation. Next question. Good. 9 people got the correct answer. Everyone got it. San Miguel Corporation wanted to enter the telecommunication market with Vega Telecom. However, 2 companies bought the assets of Vega Telecom out. These were which companies? So, look at the clue. These are the companies which have ownership of PLDT and Globe Telecom, and they bought 50% of the assets of Vega Telecom, which is San Miguel Corporation's telecom company. To prevent it from entering the market. So which is this or which are these companies? Okay. Anong nangyari? Correct answer is Ayala and First Pacific. Very good. Ayala, which has ownership of Globe, and First Pacific, which has ownership of Smart. Galing nila, no? 50-50. Okay, next. Which is a strategy that big conglomerates like Jollibee often use when a competitor starts acquiring higher market shares? Which is a strategy that big conglomerates like Jollibee often use when a competitor starts acquiring higher market shares? Okay, correct answer is hala, buy them out. Next question. Buy them out. Buy them out. Acquire the company. The chaebol companies in South Korea mostly engage in which industries? First, light and heavy manufacturing, service sector industries, construction and infrastructure work, or none of the above? Light and heavy manufacturing. Light means small consumer goods and heavy means big consumer or capital goods. You have service sector, construction and infrastructure work, none of the above. Okay, correct answer is light and heavy manufacturing. LG, Samsung, Lotte. Lotte with light manufacturing, food products, while Samsung, medyo light pa rin nga. LG has heavy. Samsung has ref, so heavy then. In the expansion stage of conglomerates, they do what? Diversify into investing into different sectors, explore and enter overseas markets, loan capital from banks and governments, or borrow capital from banks and governments. In the expansion stage of conglomerates, they diversify into investing in different sectors, explore and enter overseas markets, loan capital from banks and governments. Correct answer is okay, correct kayo. Sorry, mali yung ano. So, tama yung 7 na to na nagsabi, diversify into investing in different sectors. In exploring and entering overseas markets, usually this is the maturity stage na. Okay. Kamali si teacher nang lagay ng answer. Next question. The screenshot is most probably from the investment portfolio of which company? This screenshot is most probably from the investment portfolio of which company? Okay, good, Adrian and Charles. Okay. Correct answer is SM Investment Corporation. They own BDO and China Bank at the same time. Okay, last two questions. The Bank of Commerce, Petron Corporation, Magnolia and Monterey Chicken, Red Horse Beer are all subsidiary companies of which conglomerate? The Bank of Commerce, Petron Corporation, Magnolia and Monterey Chicken, Red Horse Beer are all subsidiary companies of which corporations or conglomerates? 5, 4, 3. Okay, correct answer is San Miguel Corporation. Good. Everyone got the correct answer. Last question. Which among the following conglomerates started out as a distillery and then eventually diversified into property development, telecommunications, automotive manufacturing, among others? Which among the following conglomerates started out as a distillery and then eventually diversified into property development, telecommunications, automotive manufacturing, among other industries that they entered? Okay, correct answer is the Ayalas. So Ayala Group is the correct answer. 3 people got the correct answer. Yung San Miguel wala pa silang automotive manufacturing eh. And they didn't enter successfully the telecom market because they were bought out by Smart and by ano pa by First Pacific Group and then the Ayala Group with Globe. Okay, sige. So, let's see who got the top 5. Only 8 people were answering even though 12 people were in the game. Ano nangyari sa apat? It's like, okay, sure, we're gonna enter, but then we're not gonna do anything. Okay, sige. So, we have the top 5. Who's Pomelo Poppins? Sino si Pomelo Poppins? Sorry, nagka-cut off daw. Oh, si Tracy. Ikaw to Trace. Si Dave. Okay, si Dave. Congratulations, Dave. How about asparagus Ahab? Ahab, no? Ahab ba? Tama. Hindi. Hindi daw si Tracy. Sino si asparagus Ahab? Okay, si Christine Tin. Congratulations. How about Quince Castellan? Who's Quince Castellan? Okay, Shin. Congratulations, Shin. Langsat Lorax? Langsat Lora? Sino to? Longsat? Langsat? Jester! Congratulations, Jester. And Jackfruit Jansen. Who's Jackfruit Jansen? Okay, Ren. Congratulations, Ren. Okay, sige. For those who were cut off, ayun, magreklamo tayo sa quiz is mamaya. Joke lang. Ayun, okay, sige. I'm sorry for the ones who were cut off and did not properly participate in the. Eto, I think these people had difficulty, ayun, may mga cut-offs nga, hindi sila nakapag-answer. Ayan, but, ayun, just join na lang the chat with Charles and Adrian next time. Thank you so much for participating, Charles and Adrian. Okay, sige. So, for the next part, um, let's go into the discussion of your answers from activity 2.3. So we have 3 guide questions. Uh, Ayan. Sorry guys, hindi ko na-include yung mga bagong lang sa picture. Papahiyain ko kayo ng konti. Hindi ko na-include yung mga nag-submit by 12 at saka 11 kasi I was asleep by 11 or I went to bed mga 11:20 and you were ayun, sige, but I'm so proud of you. Ang galing-galing niyo talaga. You're so good. Ayun, I haven't read the other answers. Alam mo yung kay Jeff, actually yung kay Jeff, I just googled his name sa Google. Kasi nga, tinatamad ako mag-Facebook, hindi pa ako naka-login. I was like, okay, sige, i-google natin si Jeff. And then eto yung lumabas na picture, may YouTube video pala siya for his science class. I think it was like science mukbang or something. Ayan, okay, sige. So let's have the first question. The first question is that, who wants to answer this from you four? And then for the people who did their work, mga 12 AM or 11, sina Shin, sina Rain, si Ren, Eliza, you can also join. I'm sorry, next time ko na lang kayo papahiyain, ha? Okay, sige. You'll have your turn as well. Ayan, pero sige. Um, who wants to start with the summary of the economic development of South Korea from a poor country to a rich country, right? With the fourth biggest economy in the world. Who wants to start? Let's have sa unmute your mics. Tatawag ba? Okay, Shine. What did you learn? So, you can also read your answer if you want. Hindi natuloy yung pagpasa kasi walang nakitang name sa may form. Andiyan naman yung answer mo. Nabasa ko yung answer mo kahapon. Sino yun?
Si Imran, Char.
Ha?
Si CM ta, Char.
Chair, mapasa ron bala dapat
si
ko
CM.
check mga chair 11 chair. Tapos chair
Oo.
gi-offer ko mga limit kung ng ABM and gas chair amat chair pag sa forum chair pag magpasa ikaw chair kita names. So bali
Oo.
gi-answer na ako tapos wa sanda jakon kasi wa sanda nagpasa hindi lang ko magpasa.
Nahuya
Ready na
ikaw.
mo, chair.
Okay. Pass lang. Oo. Tapos, sige, you wanna start? Kung ano yung nasairan ikaw. Sige, ikaw na lang ma-start kasi nahiya yung apat na to. You can start with with the, kung bakit naging or paano naging rich yung South Korea from being a poor country. Sige, ikaw magbigay ng background kung bakit sila poor nung una.
Chair, naging poor sanda chair dahil sa wars chair nga natabo sa anda. Then, after kato, si Park, something chair there,
Oo.
si Park chair, ng domain na isip mga ideas, chair, di na kung kaya i-summarize na ng chair, pero may answer na ako. Ang ginawa chair, Korea chair, para maging rich sanda is nag-manufactured sanda sa goods, nag-export sanda at manufactured goods sa US, nga nag-help sa South Korea nga ipataas pa ang GDP nanda. Tapos nag-ano sanda sa may higher education nanda halin sa government.
Okay.
And nag-focus sanda after kato sa heavy and chemical industry drive.
Okay, sige. Good. Ayun. So basically that's a summary, right? That's a good summary of what South Korea did, right? The history of South Korea from poor country to a rich country. Okay. Thank you so much, CM, for that. Anyone else wants to add to that history? So CM started with that. Can you add any additional inputs? Kung ano pa yung alam natin about how they went from a poor country or to a rich country? What was something that stuck to you most? Okay.
Char.
Yes, Dave.
Nag-develop sa Char foreign relations na Char. So,
Okay.
una, naging dependent sila sa foreign aid nga sa mga bulig sa ibang countries. Tapos, tang uli ay daw gin-return ang favor ba, Char? Tapos, nag-benefit man sa anda sa uli. Pareho sa US nga gintawan nanda soldiers para mag-away sa Vietnam. Tapos tang uli ay nag-open niya trade sa US. So,
Okay.
nagbaskog din ang GDP sanda.
Very good. Ayun. And Renz was also commenting something about how the Korean troops actually sabi niya, don't mind muna pero Korean troops were scary during the Vietnam War. Ayun. They 'di ba yung meron ata na myth. I don't know if it's a myth or a fact kasi wala akong alam nito pero Korean troops are apparently one of the fiercest soldiers soldiers daw. Totoo ba yun? Korean troops?
Sa
May
mga
video yan sa
comments,
YouTube,
sir,
ate.
yes, sir. Astig, sir,
Oo.
ha?
Hindi hindi ko na alam 'yun, pero 'yun yung yung isa sa mga like naririnig ko lang even though I haven't read or watched anything about it. Pero naririnig ko from social media sites and so on that Korean troops are apparently really fierce, right? Not only sa Vietnam pero with regards to North Korea as well kasi nagkaroon sila ng civil war, 'di ba? And they also started sending troops. And with regards pala sa sa Philippines and sa Korea, we also send troops out to kasi nag-assist yung US din sa Korean War. The Philippines also sent troops to assist with the Korean War, and Ninoy Aquino was one of the journalists was also covering that specific historical historical event, 'di ba? Okay, so medyo interesting. Yan, and as Steve said nga, yung isang talagang maganda sa South Korea is that they started making sure that the relations, right, and the economic relations are intact. So, yung economic relations and political relations, they're always tied together. So, with US by assisting during the Vietnam War, syempre, even though I disagree with the assistance, it's good politically. And you also have Japan, right? They also assisted with Japan, and Japan also supported them with regards to making the new technologies more accessible to South Korea. 'Di ba? And actually, ano yung na-notice natin sa type of government ng South? Bakit mo nakita si Marcos? Renz, no, no, no. You can answer right now. Pwede kang mag-answer right now. Ayun. The picture is just there because I put them like lang kahapon ng gabi. So I wasn't able to see your other answers. Pero the rest who have answered, you can answer right now or you have prepared your answers already. Pwede talaga. You can unmute your mic if you want. Okay, ayun. Sige. Yung question ko is, what did you notice about the government of South Korea? Ano yung naging gobyerno nila when they were trying to develop the country from being a poor to a rich industry? How was the government described?
Ginakontrol using military, anay.
Yes. So it's a dictatorship, right? Like yung nangyari sa kay Marcos na era. They were basically under a dictatorship wherein the government controlled or the military was or there was military law, right, in the government. But it makes sense because there was a civil war happening. But at the same time, guys, there have been theories with regard to the development that at the first part, if you want to kapag gusto niyo yung rapid na growth and you want to sacrifice syempre human rights and so on uh or like the processes, you can actually facilitate rapid economic growth using dictatorships. So some countries have done this already, but at the same time kaya yung nangyayari ngayon, 'di ba, that growth would not be sustained. So you have to establish institutions during, 'di ba, mag-establish ka ng political institutions na hindi dictatorship para mag-transition and maging sustainable yung economic growth, because it's not sustainable if you use dictatorships to facilitate economic growth for a very long time. So pwede siya at a certain point, right, if you want rapid economic growth, but at the same time hindi siya pwedeng ma-sustain. When security is not a question anymore, when the people have already experienced higher amounts of income and wealth, usually they would refuse to be under a dictatorship. And that's one of the reasons why South Korea, 'di ba, ang raming mga South Koreans ngayon, they were protesting against the president, and may in-impeach sila na president was who was close with the tribals, because for them hindi na necessary, 'di ba, na may ganong klaseng sistema, which is a bit like hindi siya fair, right? Hindi siya meritocratic, 'di ba, or hindi siya fair para sa ibang tao na may specific na mga industries na pinapaboran yung gobyerno. So magche-change, 'di ba, yung social norms and then yung political norms in the future. But then makikita natin historically, okay, this is how they have done their growth. It was under a dictatorship, and the government moved really quickly, and the industries were supported because, again, the executive have a lot of power, right? Ayan. So that's one complication, right, of history. Pwede kang magkaroon ng rapid economic growth. And I think Dave, said in his answer na ganon. Like, I think three of them, si Shine, si Ivan, and then si Christine, said na we do not, ano yung sinabi nyo sa last part? If the Philippines is going to follow this type of trajectory.
'Di ba 'di ba ang Philippines may dati chair ng sagana sa natural resources pala, unlike South Korea.
Oo. Yes.
Mao daw
Oo.
lisod i-adapt ang mana kato sa dati nga panahon. Pero kaya
Mm-mm.
daw pwede ron isundon bala dahil
Mm-mm.
ano yan sa mga outcome nga natabo sa South Korea.
Mm. Ayun. So, tama yung sinabi ni Jeff. We have more resources compared to South Korea. They had to invest heavily in education and manufacturing because they did not have a lot of agricultural products even before. Ang konti ng contribution ng GDP ng agriculture sa South Korea. And hindi lang 'yon, pero they did not have a lot of like resources, natural resources compared to the Philippines. And we're actually very lucky. But at the same time, may nagsasabi na there's such a thing as a natural resource trap. 'Di ba? For example, countries in Africa have lots of natural resources. But if they undergo a period of colonization, usually yung mga systems na nakalagay sa mga countries with lots of resources are extractive systems, 'di ba? Yung point lang nila is to make sure that the resources are extracted and then sell it to other countries, or they would be controlled by major industries na malalaki. And usually hindi uh, bumabalik yung income 'di ba sa public. There's no such thing as that. Lalo na kapag kontrolado ng mga nagma-manage din na economics or ng extractive na industries iyon, yung gobyerno, right? Because they want to protect their own interests. So, good 'yon, right? If pwedeng ma-manage yung ma-extractive na systems na iyon and it becomes more integrated, or syempre pwedeng ma-join, 'di ba, yung iba't ibang mga tao and managed well by the government. Pwede talaga 'yon na maging way for growth to happen. But yun nga, yung condition is it has to be managed well. It needs not to be extractive to the point na nadadamage yung natural resources, and then the income or the revenue is coming to a few people lang and not distributed to the rest, right? Or not distributed publicly, hindi nako-convert into money for education, money for healthcare, and so on. Kasi kinakailangan yon, right? With any other country, Singapore, South Korea, Japan, all of them invested heavily on education. Lahat yan sila, 'di ba? Yun nga, 'di ba? A lot of this what countries have in common, like Singapore, for example, South Korea, they have a lack of natural resources. Wala silang masyadong natural resources. So they were pushed into a corner. Ano lang yung ating what is our only capital, 'di ba? It's only the human capital. So they had to make sure that they were much, much better in terms of skills, in terms of talents para sa mga tao nila. So kasi wala talaga silang choice, unlike the Philippines, right? Which has a lot. It has a lot of blessings. Right? Okay. Sige. So, thank you so much, Ivan. Ayan, for that. That's a good kailangan talaga gamitan yung natural resources. Sayang. Guys, yung sa Philippines, we are actually in the top 10 geothermal producing countries in the world. Right? Hindi siya halata. Pero, nandun tayo sa top 10 na nagpo-produce ng geothermal energy, which is an renewable energy. And then, if this is continued, right? We could be one of the countries that would transition. Kasi ang rami nating tubig, ang rami nating, geothermal kasi andito nga tayo sa Pacific Ring of Fire. We could transition into clean energy better than the other countries, 'di ba? Which means that hindi lang mag-grow yung energy industry natin, but we could also grow it in a way that is more sustainable. Right? So these are things that we could use as an entry point. Na okay, sige, dito it's just a matter of focus and priority. Saan natin ilalagay? What could sustain our futures and also facilitate economic growth, 'di ba? And that would make us different compared to the other countries that are more unlucky. Kasi ang lucky natin, ang dami nating resources na dapat din gamitin. Ayan, tama yung sinabi ng Jeff, ni Tin, ni Shine. Okay, I want to hear from the others. Sige, Dave, you said that sa sinulat mo na you think that the Philippines should adopt an approach like South Korea. What do you mean by that?
Wait lang, sir. Basahan ko na yung nasulat ako.
Okay, sige, sige. Okay. While we're waiting for Dave, yung sinabi ni Tin, they didn't kill their own people. It's true. Ayun. So, there are dictatorships that are considered to be more benevolent, and syempre there are dictatorships that are considered to be brutal. And Indonesia and the Philippines, the countries that are suffering a bit, right now with their bad systems, we're under really extractive and brutal dictatorships. Indonesia under Suharto and Philippines under Marcos, right? So, yung problema kasi sa dictatorship, hindi siya nagde-depend sa sistema, pero it only depends on the personal qualities of the leader. Kasi nga, yung leader nagko-control. And sometimes, we cannot afford to do that, 'di ba? Hindi natin pwedeng ma-afford na ilagay yung isang bansa sa hands ng isang tao at mag-expect na okay, kailangan maging mabuti yung tao. He has to be a good leader always because that's a really big matter of trust na hindi it's a risk. It's a really high risk, right? So it's good if the leader is well intentioned, has virtues, has political and moral virtues. But at the same time, it seems like a really big risk to put the entire country and all of the systems under one person's rule. Okay? So it's not it's not a good strategy, right? For that, lalo na kasi hindi perpekto yung tao, 'di ba? Ayun. So, we don't recommend dictatorships in terms of making sure that the economy is sustained because pwedeng mag-change yan sa huli. And it creates less trust in the systems, 'di ba? And it creates a sort of savior complex na nangyayari sa Pilipinas nga. We expect politicians to save us because we think na they could save us from no, kailangan sila yung gumawa, right? But then it's not the thing that should make a democracy work, right? We need to participate in the systems kasi that's the only way that systems have power. Yun. 'Di ba? Kasi kapag nagdedepende lang tayo sa isang leader, kapag mawala yung leader or kapag it turns bad, we don't have a recourse. Ano yung sasabihin natin? Ay, kasi magboto na naman tayo ng iba. 'Di ba? Tapos siya na naman papasa ng lahat. At hindi naman perpekto yung mga tao, 'di ba? So hindi siya sustainable as a political choice, 'di ba? Okay, sige Dave.
Sure. Sure.
Yung answer mo.
So,
Dave, are you there? Hello? Okay. Andyan ba si Dave? Sige, sige. Ayan, sige, let's just read the answers. Dave, andyan ka ba? Wala. Nawala siya bigla. Okay, sige. So, eto yung answer. Sige, tingnan natin yung answers natin. We'll just have 6 minutes more and then let's scan also the answers of the others. Ayan. Dave, andyan ka ba? Are you there? Sige, nawala siya. Dave, are you
Naka-on
there?
ang mic, sir.
Naka-on yung mic. Okay, paki-chat si Dave na hindi naririnig yung audio niya. Okay. Nawala siya bigla, oh. Ayan. Sige. Tingnan natin. Yung si Ren, you were saying about Kaist. Ano to yung Kaist na to? Tingnan natin. Is Rain here pala? Ano yung Kaist pala? I'm curious about this. Hindi ko pa to narinig. Wala na yung mga tao. Okay, Rain is also, nag-a-agree din kay Dave. Ayan. Sabi niya, we need to focus on agricultural sectors so that we can export goods and services that will attract other countries to invest. And we don't need to waste our effort jumping on the things that we know we don't have. Ayan. So we can make this sector progress for the Philippines. It's good, right, to be diversified as well. Tama yung sinabi ni Rain na we don't need to follow certain trajectories. We could learn from their strategies and their means kung paano sila nag-develop. Pero at the same time, it doesn't mean na we have to follow, 'di ba, which sectors are being developed. Kasi it also means that if pareho yung ipoproduce natin, the sectors or the markets would be congested kasi pare-pareho yung mga klaseng produkto na ginagawa, 'di ba? So one thing is to create a valued product or valued products that are uh different. Tama. That's a good strategy. Okay, DOST for training people with science. It's a Korean it's a Korean organization or government that they used to train. Okay. Ang galing. Oo, sana pwede ba yun sa mga Filipinos? Hindi, wait lang. Si Dave, andyan. Dave, if you're here, you can unmute your mic. You have Shin, who said that the Philippines could have the same type of growth trajectory by prioritizing the industrial sectors to establish opportunities for the industries in the country. But the country focused on the service sector and skipped the industrial sector, so that might be a big challenge. Tama. Actually, yung industrial sector, if you develop the industrial sector according to economists like Raul Fabella, it has a lot of multiplier effects. Ano yung multiplier effects? These are kapag gumagawa ng isang industriya, kinakailangan ng mga industriya to support it as well. So for example, you create like a water or an automotive industry. Kinakailangan yan namang suporta. So you need the mining industry to do that. You also need the basta yung iba't ibang parts. Marami siyang gumagawa siya ng supply chain, 'di ba? Kailangan ng isang chain ng maraming mga industriya to support that really big industry, which creates more jobs. Which is a better equalizer compared to services sector, for example, na hindi masyadong ganon kalaking multiplier effects. So when you have service sector industries, it doesn't really create a lot of other industries to support it. Meron, pero it's not as much as the industrial sector. So it's less efficient with regards to job creation, with regards to making sure that people have more income and so on. Kaya one thing that a lot of economists really try to suggest is to make sure that the industry sector gets developed. Kasi eto yung mas natural kasi guys. Kasi imagine, if you're transitioning from an agricultural to industrial sector, uh, you don't really need mas madali kasi nga 'di ba sa agriculture hindi masyadong mataas yung level of education at first, 'di ba? But then when you start giving skills training and so on, pwede silang makapasok sa industrial sector which has a little bit mas madaling i-transfer ng mga jobs or skills. But then if you try to transition from an agricultural sector to service sector has a lot more demands. Right, in terms of skills as well as education and training. It's really parang masyado siyang exclusive kasi kinakailangan ng mas maraming investment sa edukasyon, sa training, sa skills. Unlike yung kapag sa industrial sector ka, you just need TESDA, 'di ba? Or yung mga maliliit na mga training lang kahit sa apprenticeship lang or sa firm, pwede ka nang pumasok. Kaya yung isang reason kung bakit maraming mga, hindi nag-aaral sa Pilipinas ngayon or maraming mga unemployed and they do not want to go to school is because our industrial sector is not really as developed, right? Walang pwedeng parang middle ground. Dapat talagang edukado ka, 'di ba? Dapat edukado ka para makapasok sa mga sectors na ito. And I'm saying formal education kasi nga iba-iba yung methods ng education. You could be educated outside of the traditional school. But the demands of the Philippine economy is that you should be educated inside a formal school, right? Or specifically universities. So it's a bit inaccessible kapag medyo developed yung service sector and the industrial sector is not as developed, 'di ba? Kasi may mga ganong klaseng konsiderasyon. So medyo elitista nga yung ating service sector that we demand college education from these people. Ayun. Sige, so we have Renz, last one I think. Si Eliza pa pala. Sige, so I'm sorry for taking naka PDF. Okay, I'm sorry for taking some of your time. Ano yung sorry, last na talaga guys, I promise. So sorry. Okay, sige. So ayan, yeah. This is Eliza's. The Philippine economy is now getting low because of continuous problems and issues faced, especially by this pandemic. I admired how the government of South Korea addressed problems in their economy since they focused and prioritized more on what the country needed. Therefore, the economic transition of their country was smooth. Ang galing niyo magsulat. I really believe that this is really necessary to think and focus to the main priorities that could benefit the economy and the citizens of the country. Okay, very good. Ayan. And then we have the last one. We have Renz. Ayan. You have the ABCD. Okay, yes, the Philippines could follow the South Korea's growth, but I personally think that our country should not follow the tribal strategy. Small businesses are important in the economy of communities, and the money circulates in the community level. Very good. Our country is rich in resources if we can only industrialize it better. Ayun nga, yung isang concern is small businesses do not really get prioritized because of the big industries. And then makikita yan sa Katiklan at a community level. If San Miguel Corporation goes here, ayan, small businesses could be affected that are competitors of San Miguel. We don't know what will happen. Right? Ayan, so hindi natin alam. Ayan, so what Dave also did was to compare Philippines and Vietnam and to say that a fellow Southeast Asian country did not have much of a problem. So compared Vietnam and the Philippines. Vietnam, a country that the Philippines is ahead of in terms of development before the pandemic, had less trouble in dealing with the problem. And Vietnam mostly relies on its agricultural sector, which does not require a lot of physical interactions with people. So the source of GDP affected, 'di ba? It's not as affected compared to the Philippines. So similar to South Korea, since they have fully developed their industrial sector, they can always fall back on it when their service sector is affected. The Philippines, on the other hand, cannot do this because of how they develop its sectors. Ayan. Yan, it's good. I'm so proud of you guys. Ang gagaling nyo. As in. Ang galing niyo. Okay. If you want to have more readings about this, there's a book by James Robinson and Darren Acemoglu, which is like a classic now. Why Nations Fail: The Origins of Power and Poverty. And this is a long book. But if you want, they made a PowerPoint presentation. They detailed the histories of different countries and what makes the other countries successful and what makes the other countries fail. So sabi nila, one of their main theses is that institutions are the ones which determine which countries fail and which countries do not fail. Ayan. So, I can send this to you or we can also discuss this further. If you have any suggestions kung ano yung gusto nyong malaman about economics, if you want more to know more about consumption, investment, ganon, you can just chat me or message me. Okay, thank you so much for listening and for your contributions. We end this class here. For the others who were not featured, you will have your time as well. So we're trying to feature as much as possible in this class. Ang gagaling ng classmates nyo, ang gagaling nyo rin. Okay. Goodbye everyone and have a good day and God bless.
Bye, Char. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, sir. Thank you po.
Bye, Chair. Thank you po.